All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating and, let's be honest, pretty intense topic from Islamic theology, the signs that are said to signal the Day of Judgment. We're going to be looking at this through the lens of a scholarly text that's all about gathering and analyzing these very signs. Our source material kicks things off with this incredibly powerful verse from the Qur'an, and it's the perfect place for us to start. It just immediately sets the tone, right? It establishes the sheer gravity of what we're talking about, what the tradition calls the hour. This isn't just some distant event, it's described as a monumental, terrifying transformation of reality itself.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with what the hour actually is, then we'll look at how the signs are understood and categorized, check out some examples of both the minor and major ones, and then wrap up with the big question. What's the whole point of knowing about them?
Okay, so let's get right to the heart of it. What exactly is this hour that the texts keep referring to? Well, in the Quran, the term is as-sa'atu, and it's the name for the Day of Judgment. This is a core, fundamental belief in Islam. It marks the absolute end of the world as we know it and the beginning of what comes next, the final judgment and the eternal afterlife.
So, if the hour is this inevitable world-ending event, how is its approach foretold? This is where we get to the main subject of our source material, the signs.
These signs are basically specific events or conditions, everything from big shifts in society to genuinely supernatural occurrences that are believed to be indicators that the hour is getting closer.
And the author makes a really important point right away. These signs are not a crystal ball. Their purpose isn't to help people predict a specific date. Instead, they're meant to act as divine warnings, kind of like a wake-up call to get people to reflect on their lives and prepare spiritually.
Now, you might be wondering, where does all this information come from? Well, the author is extremely strict about their methodology. The whole analysis is based only on what are considered the two most solid sources in Islam, the Quran itself and the verified traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, known as Hadith. So this isn't just guesswork, it's based on serious scholarly work.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. The text doesn't just throw a bunch of signs at you, it organizes them into two very different categories, and understanding the split is key to the whole thing.
On one side, you have the minor signs. Think of these as slow, gradual changes that can happen over a really long time, even centuries. They often show up as shifts in society, morality, and human behavior. They're the early warnings. But on the other side, you have the major signs, and these are anything but gradual. They're described as huge, supernatural, world-altering events that will pop up suddenly and happen one after the other, signaling that the end is, like, right here, right now.
So let's get a little more concrete. What do some of these minor signs actually look like according to the text? These are things that you could theoretically see happening over time.
The book lists a whole bunch, but here are some that really stand out. People competing to build taller and taller buildings, a decline in religious knowledge to the point where ignorance is common, a feeling that time itself is speeding up, and a rise in chaos and violence. It also includes some really specific ones, like a slave girl giving birth to her master, which many scholars interpret as a sign of social and family structures completely breaking down.
Okay, so after that long, slow buildup of minor signs, the text says the storm finally arrives. And these major signs are not subtle changes. They are described as unmistakable, massive events that will just cascade one after the other.
And the scale here is just immense. We're talking about the appearance of a powerful false Messiah, known as the Dajjal, the actual return of Jesus, son of Mary, to earth, the unleashing of the destructive forces of Gog and Magog, and even events that break the laws of nature, like the sun rising from the west. This is epic, world-ending stuff.
So, with all these incredibly detailed signs, both the small ones and the huge ones, it naturally leads to the biggest question of all. Can we piece this all together to figure out when the hour will actually happen?
It's the one question that has been on people's minds for centuries, and the answer we get from the source material itself is, well, a very clear and direct no. As this verse from the Quran states, that knowledge belongs to God and God alone. It's a secret that hasn't been shared with anyone else.
Our source text really hammers this point home. It shuts down any and all attempts to calculate a date or a timeline. It states that this specific knowledge wasn't given to any prophet, not even to the highest angels. It is one of the ultimate divine mysteries.
So here's the big takeaway. If the date is completely unknowable, then the purpose of the signs can't be about prediction. It has to be something else. And according to the text, their real job is to be a constant reminder, a push for self-reflection, and a call to live a good life in preparation for a day that will come, as the author says, suddenly.
And this really brings us to the final, most important point. All of this knowledge, all these signs, they aren't meant to satisfy our curiosity about the future. They're meant to make us ask a very important question about the present. If all of this is a warning bell, what does it actually mean to be prepared? And that's the question this text ultimately